Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varisthaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha pavitram charitam yasyaha pavitram jivanam tatha pavitrata pinyai tasye kurmo namo namaha Namaste yatirajaya vivekadanda surayim Satchit Sukha Surupaya Swamini Tapaharine Om Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namostute. So we are here to discuss on Karma Yoga of Swami Vivekananda. Now we are reading the first chapter, Karma and its effect on character. In the last class we had discussed, Swamiji was explaining, giving an example of a wave. See, in a sea, big waves come and dash against the rocks. Only when big waves come and dash against a rock, you hear the sound. But every moment there will be millions of droplets coming and hitting a rock. If it is just a drop of water, we don't hear a noise. But when it is accumulated, it becomes a cumulative force, then only we hear it. So every action that we do accumulates and gives a big manifestation of power. Depending on the actions, of course Swamiji explains how to do work at the end part of this chapter. He deals with two things at the end. Now in the beginning, he is giving an introduction to karma, introduction to Karma Yoga, and the introduction to the idea of doing karma and developing a character. Then he comes to the means to develop such a character. Now we are still in the first part of the Karma Yoga. In the last, Swamiji said, whatever work that you see in this world, it may be a scientific revolution, maybe this auditorium, maybe a train, maybe a locomotive, maybe an aeroplane, etc. Any manifestation that you see on this world is due to the will of man. So how does how this will is produced? Is due to the character. The will is caused by character. And this character is manufactured by karma. Will of man caused by character. Character is formed by karma. Means karma yoga. You have to add, whenever we say karma here, you have to add it karma yoga. So, as is karma, so is the manifestation of the will. Now Swamiji extends it and comes to such a gigantic will as that of Buddha and Jesus. He is taking the example of Buddha and Jesus because he is speaking in America. If suppose he was speaking in India, he would have spoken of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi, or a Pavahari Baba. But because he is speaking in America, he is taking these two names which they are familiar with. The Light of Vesha by Arnold, they have read it. And of Buddha, it's a very nice poetic way of expressing the life of Buddha. Please read if somebody is interested. It's there in our library also. So, such a gigantic will of that Buddha or Jesus could not be obtained in one life, for we know who their fathers were. To form this will, it has taken ages, not just one birth. Swamiji says, the gigantic will which Buddha and Jesus threw over the world, whence it came? It has taken ages and ages. And after many ages, we have got a character with the will of Buddha and Jesus. The main cause of all these things is Karma Yoga. Now continuing for today's discussion. All this is written by karma work. No one can get anything unless he earns it. Nobody can get anything unless he earns it. This is an eternal law. Swamiji gives 3 examples here. Suppose somebody struggles all through the life to become rich. He may become rich, but he cannot enjoy that richness due to his nonsense. because he has not earned to enjoy the richness. He has struggled to become rich, but has not had the capacity to enjoy that richness. A fool, Swami says, may accumulate many physical things for his physical enjoyment, physical material things to enjoy physical things, or a physical enjoyment, so to say, but he can enjoy only to that extent he deserves. And gives one more, in a way, funny example. Suppose a fool having money can purchase the books from all over the world and put up a very good library, but he can read only those books which he deserves. A fool can read only those books where he has that mental capacity. Beyond that, he cannot read any other book. So, giving this example, Swami says, no one can get anything unless he earns it. This is an eternal law. Now he comes to the topic. Swami says, then you will say, what is the use of learning how to work? Now Swami begins with the explanation. Very first thing that, what is the use of learning how to work? He gives the first step. There is such a thing as frittering our energy. There is such a thing is frittering our energies. What does Bhagavad Gita say? Swami puts cleverness and as a science. Doing work with cleverness and as a science. Yoga karma. In Bhagavad Gita you have read, Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Of course, this cleverness has been explained in different ways. Anyhow, here Swami means understanding karma yoga. Cleverness, yoga karmasu kaushalam means understanding the method of work. So, why should we understand the method of work? Not to fritter away our energy. Is a very important point. We will have this discussion later on. Now, Swami continues, how to handle or how to increase our potential or the energy or the strength to do work. Swami brings the first point. It depends on your motive. Man works with various motives for name and fame and so many things. Many people even work to erect a dome after he dies, not during his lifetime. Once he passes away, a big samadhi is erected because he liked it when he was living on the earth. Swami gives so many examples here. I skip those things and restrain myself only to the important point because I have to complete this chapter today. Under 1 month I will not be here. So, Swami speaks of the motive behind every work that we do. So, ordinarily, man has a motive of name and fame, etc. Now, coming to Karma Yoga, the very first motive that one should have is work for work's sake. Remember, please remember, work for work's sake is not the highest, it is the beginning. While reading Swami, because it's a lecture, he has not organized things as such. So, it's a spontaneous erudition. He has given certain ideas in a speech. So, you have to consolidate and make it in a very systematic or organized way. So, Swami says, work for work's sake. There are men in this world who work for the sake of work because they like that work. Not even I cannot use that word liking. Whatever work comes to them, they do for the sake of work without expecting anything for the work, from the work. That's why that is the first step. Work for work's sake is the first step. Even it is very difficult to have this step, work for work's sake. Especially those people staying and working in the world, even this work for work's sake is very difficult. Even to understand, suppose let us say, we are at home, in a family, a married life. Whatever work that we do at home, can we consider that as the work for the work's sake? Because our ego will not allow us to do all those things. Very strong, we have a very strong ego. Every moment, though we say, anyhow this has come, anyhow I have to do, but still, why should I do it? My wife was supposed to do it, my children were supposed to do it, my grandparents were supposed to do it, my neighbor was supposed to do it, even in office all this happens. So to enter into the first step, work for work's sake, they work just because good will come out of it. This is the first step. Now Swamiji comes to the second step. There are others who do good to the poor and help mankind from still higher motives. They believe in doing good and love good. This is the second step. First is the work for work's sake. Second is love for humanity will propel the man to do some unselfish action is the second step. First is doing whatever comes to the hand without expecting anything from the work. Even he may not have a love. He may. At the first step, he may not have. At the second step, his heart has expanded. Suppose he has done work for the work's sake. The moment we do such things, the very first indication or the result of such actions will be the expansion of the human heart. Not physically. Our heart expands. When the heart expands, he enters into this society and work for the sake of humanity, loving them. Loving humanity has got two perceptions, of course. One as a bhakta and another also as a jnani. Swami Vivekananda says in Lectures from Colombo to Alvara, even love can lead to unity. Unity, oneness. Swamiji explains in Lectures from Colombo to Alvara. So, when his heart expands, he will work with the love in his heart, the same karma. That's why Swamiji says, unselfishness is more paying, only people have not the patience to practice it. It is more paying from the point of view of health also. Swamiji brings even the health. I don't want to discuss, of course you know. Love, truth and unselfishness are not merely moral figures of speech, but they are our highest ideal. Begin with work for work's sake. Now, love, truth and unselfishness. We do work with love, truth and unselfishness, and that forms the highest ideal. What happens with that? Because in them lies such a manifestation of power. Because in them lies the manifestation of power. Here, when Swamiji says unselfishness is more paying, only people have not the patience to practice it. First, we have to consider that one as our ideal. Every action depends on the motive. For an highest ideal, the motive is love, truth and unselfishness. The work having a motive of these three things. I want to bring to your notice one example here of our sadhus, because when Swamiji taught all these Karma Yoga, many our first inspired by Swamiji's, the first generation, after direct disciples, not the direct disciples, the first generation after the direct disciples, like our revered Swami Bhuteshanji Maharaj, revered Swami Veereshwaranji Maharaj, revered Swami Ranganathanandaji Maharaj, that circle, they try to put all this into practice. I want to bring to your notice one example of revered Swami Bhuteshanji Maharaj. This is a private conversation that happened in Belur Math when he was the president. Generally, he used to give interviews to the brahmacharis studying at training center. We have supposed to go for 2 years training at Belur Math. So Belur Math training center brahmacharis had some occasions to have a personal meeting with Maharaj, and also collectively after brahmacharya diksha or after sannyasa, President Maharaj, Vice President Maharaj, and General Secretary will speak to these new ordained sannyasins. And you can ask any doubts pertaining to our spiritual life. So, in one such conversation, Bhuteshanji Maharaj was inquired about his relief activity. He has done lot of relief activities. You don't see. A wonderful, perfect ideal of karma and gnana is Swami Bhuteshanji Maharaj. So, how they have taken this unselfishness, truth and love. Having that they have done karma, that example I want to quote here. It brings more meaning, I feel so. When Maharaj was in Shillong during 1945, during Second World War, it was the end of Second World War, 1945. Maharaj was the head of Shillong. I think some of you might have visited Shillong, Cherrapunji, and that there is one more center below Shillong, below Cherrapunji. If you descend the mountain, you will get the Bangladesh, Indo-Bangla border. Just we have a school, and now that mission has taken, we have a school exactly near the fence of Indo-Bangladesh border. I visited those places. So, Maharaj used to have a cycle and move from Shillong to Cherrapunji. On Saturday and Sunday, he used to give lecture at Shillong. We have more than 130, 140 schools running in Meghalaya. All state we are running more than 90 or 100 schools. More than 10,000 students are studying. Many schools are there in Meghalaya district. Headquarters is Cherrapunji. So Maharaj used to look after the school and all activities at Cherrapunji. Weekend he used to come by bicycle to Shillong and give lectures on Saturday and Sunday. Any work again he has to take a bicycle and go back all the way to Cherrapunji. So, in 1945, there was one Lieutenant Governor. It was a pre-independent era. Lieutenant Governor Robert Reed. So, Japanese had entered the northeastern side. Even Subhash Chandra Bose took their help to enter into India with Indian National Army, INA. So, they were trying to enter through northeast. So, what was the effect of that? Burma was detached from India, and there were refugees coming from Burma all the way to northeastern Assam. Those times it was called a Assam area. Now they are divided into 7 states. Earlier it was, after independence, it was called NEFA, N-E-F-A. Before that it was called as the Assam area. So these refugees were coming all the way from Burma, walking through the dense forest and coming into Nagaland, Dimapur. Maharaj was called by this Lieutenant Governor, wife of Lieutenant Governor, and requested Maharaj to run relief camp in Dimapur, Nagaland. Even if you can go and visit the Dimapur, the taluk headquarters of Nagaland. So when he was given that in charge, every day, so many refugees used to come. Even if you remember, even Swami Ranganathanandaji walked all the way from, though he was offered a flight, he came walking all the way from Burma, and he lost his weight. He was 37 kgs when he arrived at Calcutta, and he was sent to Calcutta to recoup his health under Kalyanji's guidance, and care, not guidance, care. So, Maharaj was, when he was looking after that relief camp, so many refugees will come. Let us say they will come at 9 o'clock in a truck. All of them were brought in a truck and dropped at this refugee camp. Maharaj has to take the attendance of all these people. Attendance, health condition, they had nothing. Whatever clothes they wear, that's the only belonging they had. No money, nothing else. So they were brought to the refugee camp. Their health conditions were taken into account, and a coupon was distributed, a token, that they have to show at the canteen which was erected for their purpose, and they will get one meal with a little rice and dal, nothing else, rice and dal. Maharaj ran this relief camp for 4 months. So they were, and then train tickets have to be booked for them. They should be accommodated in the camp. Next day train tickets have to be booked, and all these refugees were to be taken to the railway station, dropped at the railway station, and then see off, and they will move to their respective places. every day minimum 1,000 refugees will come to the camp. You have to account them 1,000, give them 1,000 coupons, canteen will get their meal, and food packet has to be prepared with a beaten rice, a little rice, and condensed milk powder, and little bit of cloths, and some napkins. A packet for 1,000. How many are there? 1,000. How many are Swamis? One Bhuteshananda. And he requested headquarters to send monastic. They sent 5 monks, but due to cholera, all the 5 left. Only Maharaj remained for 4 months. So many, I think it's all their blessings. We have got nothing in this era. It's their blessing and their protection we are running this organization. There are so many stories, but I will restrict only to Swami Bhuteshananda Maharaj for this Karma Yoga. It's not simply a theory. That's why Swamiji says, it's not a figure of speech. What do you mean by figure of speech? Alankara, alankarika. It's not alankara. It's life that they have led. Then, in between this, there was unpredictable situation. Suddenly a bomb will come and blast near your refugee camp. The Japanese used to bombard those areas. And then you have to shift the refugee camp. Suppose there is a bombing going on, you shift the refugee camp somewhere inside the forest. You are not supposed to walk on the streets. You have to walk inside the forest, not on the main road. Because somebody seeing may fire. Seeing you alone, they may start firing. So, you have to always walk inside the forest. The problem is, many times, and it's a very affected by heavy rains. Cherrapunji, Meghalaya, it's a heaviest rain. Now it has Cherrapunji shifted. But the moment it rains, all the area become slushy. And the trenches that used to move these refugees is full filled of filth and a stinky smell, and you cannot avoid walking through those areas. One of the refugee asked Maharaj, it is so slushy and unpredictable. We are staying for 2 days. You have to stay till this camp goes on. So how are you going to take food here in this slushy, stilthy area? Maharaj said, wherever we want to sit, we sprinkle phenyl and sit and take our food. Then that refugee asked Maharaj, how can you smell that phenyl and eat? We have no other alternative. No chair, table, dining table. Today morning I had to address a few devotees who are new to this organization. They had come for a half-day retreat. I told them, generally a retreat should be done making you sit squatting. I also should squat and you also should squat. But we don't have energy to squat for long hours. Half an hour is okay. Beyond that we cannot squat. There is no dining table in that slushy area. Maharaj said, we used to sprinkle phenyl and take our food for 4 long months. What that food? Only dal and rice. No curry, no vitamin B12 or BT, D3, nothing. Then, while taking food, there was very much acute shortage of water. These refugees coming all the way from Burma, they also had no drinking water facility. They were, while traveling, suppose they see some village. They go to that village and request for a cup of water, a glass of water. Every villager used to charge minimum 5 to 10 rupees. 1945, I am telling 1945. They used to charge, these are all the reminiscences told by Maharaj himself. He himself has narrated all these things. They used to charge 5 to 10 rupees per glass. They had no money, but if they want to drink water, they have to pay 5 to 10 rupees for each glass of water. And wherever there were chances of getting a water, those watery body were guarded by soldiers not to allow these refugees to drink water because it will be contaminated and they may get cholera or malaria. So they have to come with a parched throat to this refugee camp, and these men should be taken care by Swami Bhuteshanji. If you don't have love, if you don't have truth, if you don't have unselfishness, neither Belur told, nor it's a government order. It was just a request. But propelled by the ideal of Swami Vivekananda, Maharaj did all this. You should remember, there was no electricity. Night time, Maharaj told, many people died while attending nature call during night, falling into trenches. Morning they were not to be seen. Because they have fallen, night they have gone out, no electricity, you cannot light even lantern, because seeing a light, somebody may start firing. So going out in the darkness, many people have died in trenches. And after 1 month or so, cholera got affected. And government appointed 200 cremators to bury the body alone. Their duty was to bury body. To do that work, there were 200 cremators. People used to die due to cholera. And Maharaj gave one example. One day, while walking on the street, they saw one person lying there, half conscious, is half unconscious, seeking for a cup of water. Maharaj went near him. He is fully surrounded, engulfed by mosquitoes. He had an attack of cholera. Maharaj took him on his shoulder, brought to the refugee camp. He requested the next person, who was a government employee, to bring a cup of water for this person while the time I nurse him. But that person refused to bring a cup of water, saying, Maharaj, if I come near him, I will get a cholera. Then Maharaj, I will kick you. He used this word, I will kick you out of the refugee camp if you don't bring a cup of water. Maharaj took such care, and in one instance, Maharaj told, one day morning, 1,200 refugees came in one truck. Maybe in not one truck, in few trucks. Out of them, in the evening, 900 people died. Only 300 remained. Morning 1,200 came, by the evening 900 people have died. These are all, there are so many such histories. Second World War and famine in Calcutta, the instance of Churchill, nothing is taught in the schools and colleges. We don't read, unfortunately we don't read. The fate of India, why Swamiji, what was the contribution of Swamiji? If Swamiji would have not come, we would have not known what is India, though we had such a high spiritual heritage and a tradition. The contribution of Thakur, bringing out that worship of Shakti to the fore, bringing Swamiji from the plane of Advaita to the plane of Shakti, accepting Kali, has got so many meaning. If I think, I feel so much inspired, and so many ideas comes. That's why here Maharaj said, in one instant, 1,200, 900 died in the evening. So, one day, there was one person, Rangoon Sevashrama, the president who was running that, Ranganathan was looking after a hospital there in Rangoon. That the president of that Sevashrama was a very wealthy man. He, his wife, and a young child. They were supposed to leave that Rangoon. They left Rangoon in a truck with all their wealthy belongings. They came near the bridge. The bridge was bombarded. They had to leave all their belongings and start walking. By the time, Maharaj said, by the time they arrived at the refugee camp, they were beggars. And Maharaj said, I had not even tears to cry. If somebody died, we had no tears to cry, because every day we are seeing hundreds of them die. That was the condition. Maharaj stayed for 4 long months and did this refugee camp. He has done many in Kutch and even in Lahore. They have carried 40,000 kgs of rice in one place on a boat. In one place, the boat could not move. They have carried all the rice on their shoulders and shifted that. And you should remember, he was a Swami, not teaching Vedanta, mind you, not teaching Vedanta. That's why sometimes when people start, we want to learn Advaita Vedanta, I ask them, first do some work and then let us discuss Vedanta later on. Many people are nowadays interested in Advaita Vedanta. I don't against Advaita Vedanta. But you have to prepare yourselves to at least understand. Adhikaratva will not come just by reading. Adhikaratva comes by first strengthen the character through karma. and that get that will and come to a stage where you can love people unselfishly, then karma yoga, gnana yoga, bhakti yoga, any yoga is okay. That's why here Swamiji says, but they form the highest ideal because in them lies such a manifestation of power. Maharaj then later on become the president of the order. I will tell you another side of his personality once I come to the last phase of this karma yoga. Because Swamiji again, what is our ideal Swamiji brings us? Now I am speaking about karma, manifestation of will, and get that karma, unselfish love. Okay. What is that is required? What is the expectation of Swamiji from us? That he will conclude with those ideas at the end part of this karma yoga. Again I will bring Bhuta Shandi at that time. Now, Swamiji says, even doing unselfish work for 5 days, he says even for 5 minutes, without any unselfish motive, selfish motive, he brings highest good. For that, one needs self-restraint, atma, indriya nigraha, sanyama. He says, self-restraint is a manifestation of greater power than all outgoing action. He gives 2 examples. One is that a horse carriage drawn by 4 horses, it is rushing through the hill, down the hill, ascending. So, if you leave the carriage, it will just rush through the road. But if the coachman wants to stop the carriage midway, he needs lot of horsepower to stop that vehicle. A self-restraint is required. Second example he gives, if you fire a cannonball is fired to the cannon, it travels a distance till it loses gravity, and then afterwards when it loses its force, it will fall on the ground due to the pull of the gravity. But in the second instance, when the cannon is fired, you erect a wall. The ball will come and hit the wall. Due to the friction, a great heat is, Swamiji says, will not cause power return to pull. You need a lot of heat is generated due to the friction of the wall and the cannonball. These 2 examples he gives here because to work unselfishly, you need self-restraint. Without self-restraint, you cannot work you cannot work karma or the work with unselfish motive. First motive, work for work's sake. Second is love, and accompanied with unselfishness, love and truth. For this we need self-restraint. Here, I want to bring, then this self-control will tend to produce a mighty will. Through this self-restraint, we get a mighty will, a character which makes a Christ or a Buddha. Recently, in 2007, there was an experiment done by a psychologist in America, because they are now more interested in all these things. His name is Philip Zimbardo. He has done one experiment revisiting Walter Mischel marshmallow effect. Marshmallow is the name of a chocolate in America. I have not eaten it, but I have read this whole research. Means I have heard his talks on YouTube. He has given you can Google it. You will get all these details. You just type Philip Zimbardo or revisiting Walter Mischel by Philip Zimbardo. Or you can even type Marshmallow Test. Marshmallow is a type of chocolate. They say it's very tasty. The experiment that he has done is, you see what the result of self-restraint. I am speaking regarding self-restraint. Now psychology, neuroscience, they are all accepting this. He took some maybe 10, 15, 20, 30, I don't know, he has not given the number. Young children or kids between the age group of 4 and 6. He took them into a room individually, kept them this marshmallow chocolate in front of them, and asked them not to eat this chocolate for 5 minutes. I will go out, come back after 5 minutes, you wait for 5 minutes, but the chocolate will be in front of you. You should see, but not eat. It's young kids between age 4 and 6. So you have to see that chocolate but not to eat. If you can wait for 5 minutes, you will get 2 chocolates. If you eat it now, you will get 1. If you can wait, you will get 2. If you don't wait, you will get only 1. So he calls delaying the gratification. His psychological term that he used, delaying the gratification. If you can delay the gratification of the senses, you will have the benefit of eating 2 marshmallow chocolates. Then he has fixed a camera in that room just to watch the movement of those kids. He has recorded all the kids, their movements. The child will just touch it in the hand, will taste it with the taste bud, use a little saliva, again dip it on the marshmallow, again she or he will taste. They cannot avoid their gratification. It's tempting, too tempting for them. Few children can avoid, but few could not. In that one instance is there one case. He is explaining, if you can wait, I will give 2. If you don't wait, you will get only 1. He is explaining, by the time he has already eaten half of the chocolate. He says, you wait, I will go and come. By the time he has gone out of the room, he has already finished the chocolate. Then after 5 minutes, Philip Zimbardo came back to the room and said, you did not wait. Then he said, I waited, you did not come. There's a video, you just Google it. Philip Zimbardo's experiment on Marshmallow Test. I waited, you did not come. Then, what he did, he visited these children after 15 years. He did the experiment at the age of 5. Then he had a contact with all of them. Then after 15 years, maybe when they were between 20, 19, 21, he visited their houses and took their behavioral attitude. Those who could not delay their gratification were jealous, envy, moody, depressed. Those who could wait for 5 minutes, delaying their gratification, they were 250 points more compared to these children. Successful, self-confident. He has given a big chart. I refer this marshmallow test to students because many people, why should we get up early in the morning? Why? Psychology is telling. It's in the beginning, it's just a self-restraint, delaying the gratification for 5 minutes. Forget work for work's sake. That's why Swami says, this self-control will tend to produce a mighty will, a character which makes a Christ or a Buddha. Now imagine Christ, Buddha, Paramahamsa and Mother with respect to the will. Standing on that pedestal, they become Kapala Mochana. They will have such a will, seeing you. If they can grace you, they can erase all your previous birth because they are standing at such a high point of will. Through their will, they can erase your karma, prarabdha, Kapala Mochana. That's why Swami says, it happens beginning with the self-restraint. You have a motive, accompanied by self-restraint. Now continuing, Swami says, even the lowest forms of work are not to be despised. I repeat, even the lowest forms of work are not to be despised. Suppose if you are reading, if I ask a question, what do you mean by the lowest forms? Lowest forms of work. Generally, what we think, lowest forms means don't consider menial work like sweeping, removing garbage. These are not the lowest forms. Swamiji has started this idea with the motive of work. Now we have to bring that idea here. Lowest forms with the lowest motive of work. There is no distinction of labor. No. Any work you do, but have a highest motive. That is the meaning of even the lowest. That's why while reading any work, you should be careful about the usage of words. You have to follow the thought. Then only you can link the words and sentences. Even the lowest forms of work are not to be despised. Let a man who knows no better work for self-sufficiency for name and fame. Now Swamiji says, you have begun the idea with the idea of Karma Yoga. Now we don't have highest forms. Unselfishness is not there. Begin with selfish motive. Such a practical suggestion. Now at what stage you are there? Begin with a selfish motive. Then slowly train yourself for unselfish work. Just because you don't have a proper motive, don't fall away from mate sangostu akarmani. Don't have attachment to non-work. That's Krishna says, he warns there. Nato me sangostu akarmani. Karmanyevadikar, he says, don't have attachment towards non-work. Work. But if you don't have a highest motive, start with a selfish motive. Begin somewhere. Then then he continues. Come to the level of, to work we have the right, but not to the fruits thereof. Karmanyevadhikarasti mafaleshu kadachana. Here, I have explained in my introduction class that without to work we have the right, but not to the fruits thereof. How to understand at our stage? I gave the example of a gardener. Suppose a gardener, a good gardener, he will always have the intention that his garden should be very neat and clean, bearing all good fruits. Suppose it's a flower garden, he expects a good flowers. A teacher teaching in the college always expects his students to excel. Then is this not a fruit-oriented work? No. If it is not, if he has not a selfish motive, when they grow up, they will look after me. With this idea, if a teacher teaches, then it becomes a work with a motive, with a karma, with a fruit. But if your motive is unselfish, if you are a well-wisher, then that is not considered as the fruit of that karma. Bhava should be a love all, for the sake of all. Jagadhita is not considered as the fruit of karma. It's a bhava. With that idea, we can definitely work. Karmanyevadikasta, you don't misunderstand. Now, Swamiji says, there arise, concluding, now we are concluding the chapter. There arises a difficult question in this ideal of work. He brings two phases. One is, intense activity is necessary. We must always work. Now, he is stressing work, so what then becomes of rest? Is somebody intensely working, like if you say Bhutesh Anji were working so intensely. He went all the way from, he basically a Bengali body. When he went to Gujarat, he learned Gujarat. He translated Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna into Gujarati. He used to sleep in the press only, no place. Printing press, he used to sleep below. Oh, you bapre, what they have done. So, Swamiji says, what then becomes of rest? Is somebody working intensely? What then becomes of a rest? That is the one phase. There is a second phase, retiring renunciation. Everybody seeks that. Everything is peaceful around. There is very little of noise and show. Only nature with her animals and flowers and mountains. Then Swamiji says, neither of them is a perfect picture. Neither of them is a complete renunciation. Going to a forest is not our ideal. Intensely busy with the activity, that is also not our ideal. What is the ideal? Swamiji gives one example here. Suppose a fish or animal staying below the ocean, maybe 300 feet, 500 meters. Pacific Ocean are more than 1,000 kilometers depth. Suppose the animals which are staying in the Pacific Ocean below the water, if they come to the surface, it will completely smashed. It cannot, because the pressure of the water has kept the body in a particular form. The moment it loses the pressure, the body gets disintegrated. In the same way, the animals or the fishes staying above the water cannot enter into the deeper level of water. It gets crushed. In the same way, a man used to solitude cannot come to the city and he feels so much disturbed. A man who is intensely working cannot go to solitude. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says, for householder devotees, practice solitude for first in the beginning for a day, retreat half day, retreat full day, then 3 days, then 3 months, then 6 months. Sri Ramakrishna says to Master Mahasaya in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So, You cannot return completely, be a renunciate. If you are working in the society intensely, you cannot withdraw the mind so easily. Self-restraint is not possible so easily. So, man working intensely cannot retire. A man who is retired cannot come to the city and work. So, what is the ideal? Swamiji says, the ideal man is he who, in the midst of the greatest silence and solitude, finds the intensest activity, and the midst of the intensest activity finds the silence and the solitude of the desert. He has learned the secret of restraint. Be here, self-restraint, and find solitude inside. If you are working, have solitude inside. If you are in a solitude, find the thoughts inside. Karmanya akarmani cha karmaya sa buddhiman manesheshu sa yukta krishna karmakarta. It comes in the Jnana Yoga of Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter. It's a free translation of that 4th chapter Karma Yoga. Karmanya karmaya pashed akarmani cha karmaya sa buddhiman manesheshu. The ideal man is he who, in the midst of the greatest silence and solitude, finds the intensest activity, and the midst of the intensest activity finds the silence and solitude of the desert. He has learned the secret of restraint. For this explanation, Karmanya Karma, please refer Bhagavad Gita. You have to understand what do you mean by akarma and karma and akarma, because we are running short of time. So, this is the ideal of Karma Yoga, and if you have attained to that, you have really learned the secret of work. That's why Swamiji says, always what matters with karma is the motive and self-restraint. Continue with the self-motive. Then come to a stage of unselfishness. We shall find that our motives are always selfish. In the beginning, we feel it's always selfish. But don't worry. Continue your practice. But gradually, this selfishness will melt by persistence, till at last will come the time when we shall be able to do really unselfish work. We may all hope that someday or other, as we struggle through the paths of life, there will come a time when we shall become perfectly unselfish. And the moment we attain to that, all our powers will be concentrated, and the knowledge which is ours will be manifest. So knowledge, Swamiji comes to, he did not end at work. What is the end result? It is knowledge. Giving the last example of Swami Shankaranji, I will conclude this chapter. Swami Shankaranji was serving in I think in Trishur, in our Ramakrishna mission. Swami Shankaranji was a disciple of Swami Brahmanji. Even Swami Tyagishanji also did lot of work in Kerala before coming to Bangalore. Swami Shankaranji started his service activity in those pre-independent India called as Harijan colony. So, he went to every house. At the initial stage, he educated them first to take bath. Every day you have to bath. For them, he constructed small pits, water pits, for the children to come and take bath. He used to go to every house, stand there, bring the children, dip them in the water, wipe them, put on new clothes. That was his first work. Every house he will visit the Harijan colony. Later days, he started a primary and middle school for that Harijan colony. One of our Swamis, now a Swami, earlier he was a young boy. He went to visit the Trishur, and then somebody told Shankaranji as doing that Harijan activity there, you can go and visit. He was in the school, Shankaranji Maharaj was in the school. This young men, a few of them, went to that Harijan colony, wanted to see how Maharaj is working there, serving them. Then he told them, you first go to the colony, see those through them, and come back. When they came back, seeing all the activity there, then Maharaj gave 4 instructions about this Karma Yoga, how to understand this Karma Yoga. All this is done for them. Of course, with a motive of unselfishness, that's all things you have to add, because it is a Swami who is working there, not ordinary persons. All this being done for them, but don't expect anything from them. This is the first point that you have to understand before work, serving the society. Do all this is done for them, but don't expect. Second, all this is being done for them. Don't think that they will oblige. They may not. But from your side, don't think that they will, స్వామిಗಳು వస్తూ ఉన్నారు, ప్రణామం చేస్తాను, కాಣಿకే ఇస్తాను, వద్దండి అట్లా కాదా. It will not happen like that. It's not Bangalore Ramakrishna Mutt where you offer pranami and do. No, it's Arjan Colony, pre-independent area. So, don't think that they will oblige. Maybe, generally, in schools and colleges, in a group activity, if you are leading a group, many times the leader loses his temper and shouts at them. Why? Because his ego is offended. His weakness gets manifested. Because he feels that they should revere. They are not doing. It's a weakness of the person manifests as anger. Teacher cannot control the children. It manifests as anger. If there is anger, because it's your weakness showing them. So that's why don't feel that they will oblige. And the third point, don't expect that they will obey. First is oblige. Third point, don't think that they will obey you. And the final sentence that Maharaj made, this is being done for the sake of them, but don't expect that they will improve. So, not to the fruits thereof. I have all the purest intention that they will improve, but don't expect that they will improve. This is you don't have the rights to fruits thereof. I have the intention. The intention is not considered as the fruit. But don't expect that they will improve. They may improve, they may or may not. But from your side, do this unselfish activity, seeing their condition, but don't expect they will improve. This Shankaranji Maharaj instruction to the boys, he is a very senior Swami now. He while taking class, he narrated this incident. So I remember that. That's why this Karma Yoga, while doing, teaches how. Definitely one thing is sure, it definitely brings a willpower in the man that is sure. We may not understand other things at this moment, but if we are having a proper motive, with the self-restraint, can do a bit. Definitely, it is 1000% surety I can tell. You will get a willpower. It will manifest. Where it will go. So now, with this, I conclude this first chapter Karma Yoga. Next 2 Sundays, out of the city of Shumaga, Mangalore, Belagaum, and next third Sunday, a recording at Chandra Durdarshan. Next 4th week, I will be in Belmud. They have called me. I have to go there. So, on the 4 Sundays, this neither Leela Prasanga nor Karma Yoga will be there. We will start in the 2nd week of May, if I am here in Bangalore. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.